Roshni Udyavan Associates is a multidisciplinary team of architects, planners, academicians, ecologists. We share a common vision of creating eco-spaces compatible with a sustainable environment. We are committed to providing situational, context-specific, sustainable options backed by project experience spanning several decades. Today, we will be looking at the subject of green building design and certification. A lot of people have questions on this subject, and we have received a lot of questions also, which we will answer today. And that's our objective for today's about 1 hour long session. So going ahead, this is the 3 cornerstones of our philosophy towards green design. It's a holistic approach which includes 3 things: resource optimization. So how can buildings become net zero in energy, water, and waste? Using waste as a resource, using the principle of circular economy. So how can we have materials which have low embodied energy? How can we source food locally? These are all under the circular economy. And then improved environment quality. Our focus has been on the stakeholder and how to provide the best quality for the stakeholders. So reducing air and noise pollution, providing better indoor environment quality, as well as visual and thermal comfort. These are the cornerstones of the philosophy of sustainable design, of green design. And we always focus on stakeholders and their context-specific requirements. And the objective is to make buildings sustainable and climate resilient. So what does green design entail? What are the different aspects in green design? So here we are, the energy, which is one of the major aspects because of the carbon emissions and the carbon footprint that is associated with it. This involves energy efficiency of the building envelope, of the building systems like the HVAC and all of the other systems like lighting, equipment and everything. So that is the energy efficiency, and then renewable energy will complement how the building envelope is, and cumulatively the building can be much more energy efficient, and that's the goal, that in the end buildings can become nearly zero energy buildings or net zero energy buildings. So that's the target. We also look at water, which is a major component, especially in the Indian context. Water management, rainwater harvesting, wastewater recycling, and using efficient equipment so that water can be conserved at every stage. Then we look at waste, which is how can we reduce waste at every stage of the building, right from the start, that is during building construction. How can the resources be managed such that minimum amount of waste is generated at the site as well as during the operational life of the building. Then we look at indoor environment quality, how to provide visual and thermal comfort, how to reduce the emissions such as VOCs and various other chemicals that are released from using materials which contain chemicals. So it can be even cleaners and agents which we use for housekeeping, or it can be paints, it can be adhesives that are used in the wooden varnishes or in coatings and finishes that are used. So basically, how can we create an environment which has a good indoor environment quality? Then we also look at vegetation and biodiversity. What kind of vegetation do we have in the surrounding, and how can we improve the quality of this vegetation? For example, by adding, various native species, by using various type of species which attract, for example, butterflies and birds and so on. So this is the kind of vegetation and biodiversity enhancement that we look at. So these are the major principles and guidelines, or the major criteria that govern a holistic approach towards design, that is a green design or a sustainable design. What are the green building certification systems? Now, green building certification systems are nothing but third-party endorsement of a green building. You may have created a green building, but a third party needs to endorse this, that this is a green building indeed. And there are some parameters and some benchmarks and some standards that you will have to achieve. So this is why a green building certification system provides you with that. So you may get a certain number of points by which you will be, at a certain level. So this will establish that how good you are in terms of green building. Are you 100%? Are you 50%? Or are you just 25%? So this is why the green building certification systems exist. There are many of them. And basically, the green building certification systems talk about, they provide you an assessment of sustainability and environmental aspects to meet benchmarks and standards. So there are various national as well as international benchmarks which these green building rating systems refer to, such as ASHRAE, such as the National Building Code, such as the Energy Conservation Building Code of India, and so on and so forth. So there are many standards and benchmarks that are referred to in these green building certification systems. So when you adhere to these rating systems, or when you become part of these rating systems, you are automatically becoming you're automatically benchmarking yourself against some of the national and international standards and achieving the best quality. The various green building certification systems that are existing. The Indian Green Building Council has its rating system. Then that is called as IGBC. Then we have the GRIHA, which is administered by the TERI as well as Ministry of New and Renewable Energy Sources. We have ASSOCHAM with its GEM or Green and Eco-Friendly Movement rating. And we have the international certification, which is LEED, USGBC. So these are the ratings, and you can see that each of these ratings has different levels of certification, such as, certified, a basic minimum 1-star rating in the case of GRIHA. In the case of GEM, it's GEM 1 level, and so on. And in USGBC, it's basically certified silver, gold, and platinum. So different rating systems have their own points, but broadly the categories are remain the same, and the types of buildings that green building rating systems refer to, they can provide certification for, include the commercial buildings. This means offices, commercial complexes such as theaters, multiplexes, shopping malls, IT centers, call centers, and a whole lot of more which are non-residential. And then there are, of course, is the residential sector, which can be either multi-dwelling, which is a multi-story building, or it can be a single dwelling, such as a bungalow or a row house or something. You can also achieve certifications for factories, for warehouses, for hospitals, for school buildings, for hotels, and also for the interiors. You can do it for existing or for new interiors. So either if you have an existing building, then you can also go for a rating. The ratings are there for existing buildings as well as for new buildings. And there are also categories in terms of core and shell. These are the buildings that are designed by the developer and then rented out. So there's a different set of ratings for these kind of buildings. And the major parameters that come under all of these green building certification are these 6 categories, that is sustainable architecture and design, which focuses on the passive elements of the building. that is how good the design is. So something that we cannot specify, but broadly the categories are provided, such as the shape of the building, the form of the building, the material used in the building, the shading devices provided in the building, and various other passive architectural features which can be ingenious and special for any kind of building. Then there is site selection and planning, which means how do you deal with the site? What do you do with the soil? How do you preserve the topsoil? How do you preserve the trees on the site? What kind of systems do you have during the construction process to protect the trees, to protect the topsoil, and to have a construction waste management? That is your site selection and planning. Also, what kind of provisions do you provide for your workers or the construction workers, and what facilities, creche, toilet, etc., that you are providing for them? Water conservation involves water management, that is rainwater harvesting. Are you recycling your water and using it for some purpose, either landscaping or flushing if it's possible? That is water conservation. What kind of efficient equipment you are using, that is the flushing systems, the water faucets, all of these, the showers, what kind of efficient systems, sensor-based systems you're using. Energy efficiency plays a major role in most of the rating systems, and a big chunk of points for that because it is related to carbon emissions. So energy efficiency is how to make the building itself energy efficient. So the building envelope, what kind of glass are you using? What is the U value of your wall? What is the material of your roof? And how thermally efficient it is, so that in the operational life of the building, it uses minimal energy. Secondly, it looks at efficient equipment. If you're using a centralized air conditioning system or a split air conditioning system, you have to abide by the highest standards that are there today as far as the energy efficiency is concerned. And most of them are provided by the Bureau of Energy Efficiencies, either the Energy Conservation Building Code or even the National Building Code. So energy efficiency. And then finally, if you have the space, you can provide on-site renewable energy, which can be solar PV panels, which can be net metered, or it can be solar hot water systems in case it's a residential building, it's a hotel, it's a hospital. So these things might be possible. Building materials and resources. What are you doing? Which materials are you using? If the materials are locally obtained, that is, they are obtained within a radius of, say, 250 kilometers or so, then it would be great, because you are not using carbon, you're not using energy to transport the materials. So that is one of the major sources of carbon emissions in the world, the transportation embodied energy. So using local materials, using materials with low embodied energy. As an example, you can use bamboo, which is a rapidly renewable material. You can use materials such as CSEB or mud-based blocks, or materials which contain recycled elements, such as fly ash blocks, or nowadays you have GGBS in the cement, or even it can be a better quality or sustainable cement as well, because it may be a cement which has used much less water. It may have components which are recycled and so on. And in indoor environment quality, of course, what kind of finishing materials you have used, especially in the interiors, to maintain a good environment quality. In case of commercial buildings, there are even things like carbon dioxide sensors in the HVAC system, included in the HVAC system. There can be fresh air filters if required. There can be plants in the indoor areas, and use of materials which are having low emissions, emissions of VOCs, of various other chemicals that are released. For example, low VOC paints, adhesives, which are used for fixing of glass or fixing of tiles. These are all adhesives which ultimately give out various kind of gases which you inhale throughout the life of the building. So you need to have You need to choose the right kind of materials which will provide you a good indoor environment quality. So these 6 parameters are what are covered under green building certification. And more or less, if you find out different things to do under each of these criteria, then you will be achieving a good green building certification. The number of points that we showed you, you can go up to 5-star rating. Of course, the benefits of green building certification is that you will be contributing towards the environment. That's the first big benefit, because we all have done a lot of damage to the environment through our lifestyle, through the way we live, and we have taken the earth for granted. So whatever you do, the first thing you have to remember is you're doing something back, you're giving something back to nature. So water savings, of course, that means that I would say every building should try and become water self-sufficient. You can install water efficient plumbing fixtures, recycling, reusing wastewater, and so on. Energy savings, of course, this will directly reflect in your bills. You have to believe that none of your energy costs are going to go down. I was just hearing from somebody yesterday that energy bills in the UK have gone 3 times up, and I believe that that's going to be the same everywhere, because we are going to have to deal with limited resources to provide us energy. So the better you plan now, the better you will be in a situation. Again, for energy and water savings, if you are an individual bungalow, if you're an individual a row house or something, please make sure that your buildings are energy and water self-sufficient. That would be the biggest asset for your future. And waste reduction, of course, we have huge landfills outside every city, and we have to see how we can reduce the waste. Of course, this is also behavioral. That is, how do we commit to not using plastic and to not generate waste and so on. But also the building itself should have a plan where waste can be segregated. For example, if it's a school, put up a waste bin in every floor, which segregates the waste, metal, glass, organic waste and inorganic waste and everything. As many sections as you can. There are countries today which are having 27 different categories of waste, in which waste is segregated. The idea is that it can go back and be recycled. The process of implementation of a green building certification is very simple. Firstly, you have to register your project. Then there is a preliminary assessment that a green building consultant will do for you. Then you have to do the documentation, and then there'll be a preliminary review by the rating agency, and then they will give you the certification if you have if you pass through the final review. In some cases, like buildings which would get some benefits, if they are a green building, you can also go for a pre-certification. Well, the question is always asked, how much more would it cost for us to make a green building? The rough estimate is something like 8 to 10%. But my view is that if you don't do green buildings, it will cost you much more in the future. And the cost is basically the renewable energy. Today, solar PV, solar thermal, the payback periods have come down like anything. If you put up a solar thermal instead of a geyser, your payback is less than a year. Solar PV also 4 to 5 years, depending upon how big the size is and so on. But yes, these are becoming very much cost effective. And of course, the benefit is that once your cost is covered, the rest of the time your solar energy is free. Using energy efficient equipment. So you'll have to invest maybe in a better quality AC, in a better quality of lighting. This will cost you slightly more, but if you look at the life cycle cost of it, it is definitely better. Passive design may not cost you anything. It is, providing shading to your windows and so on, and providing better quality of walls and roofs and so on. So it might be minimal, not much if it is planned at the design stage. Of course, using insulation in the walls or roof will cost you, but then it has long-term benefits. There are countries where you are not allowed to construct if you don't have an insulated building. wastewater treatment system, solid waste management system. So these are the actual capital intensive areas for a green building. But believe me, this will have long-term repercussions and long-term impacts, which will help you make your building self-reliant in water, energy, and you will be definitely be better off than most other conventional buildings. So some of the questions that we have received here are few of them that I will try to answer. What are the various stages of inspection done on site for compliances needed for certification? So the answer is that inspection is usually done at 3 stages at the time before the construction, at the time when the building is 80 to 85% completed, and maybe post occupancy. But not all the ratings or not all the certification systems require you to do that. And many of the buildings are now applying for, existing buildings are also applying for certification, in which case only the final 1 audit is also possible. So it depends, but between 1 to 3 audits is maximum stages of inspection. Factory building, self-reliance, I think the factories are the best examples of how you can become self-reliant, mainly because factories have a lot of equipment, and their high loads are higher, and they can put up the solar panels either on top of their roof, which may not be 100% enough for their requirement, in which case they can look for off-site sources, and this definitely, because their loads are high, they can be useful. Of course, the costing of your energy depends upon your energy supplier or utility, and this is may not be necessarily very high. I know that many factories are getting low rates for their energy, but then also water. How you can harvest your rainwater and utilize it, or you can recharge it in the ground, or you can have any kind of waste water recycling. If you have any wastewater, then you could recycle it. Of course, you can segregate each and every component of waste that comes in, and see to it that it goes back into the material cycle and not go back to any kind of dumping ground. So factory building self-reliance, there's a big scope in there, and the journey is, you have to start with how to go about it, the design aspects, the aspects in the certification that I talked about, and the initial 5 categories that I told you about. Are there any specific formats available for data collection before starting the certification process? Well, the certification processes themselves have some kind of process. They have formats of their own, and you just need to submit in that particular format. Are carbon neutral buildings and green buildings the same? Not exactly. Carbon neutral buildings are related to the energy consumption, because carbon dioxide emissions are released when you burn fossil fuel based electricity or energy. So I would say that carbon neutral buildings are a subset of green buildings, because green buildings also look at other aspects such as waste, such as energy, and materials. So carbon neutral buildings will also look at the embodied energy of materials. So that is part of the things. Now, share materials that can be used as part of green buildings. So as I mentioned before, that you can use in the interiors as much as possible materials which are either recycled or rapidly renewable, such as bamboo-based materials. You can use wood composite polymers, which are available. There are many wood substitutes today available in the market, and considerably reasonable price. So you can look at that as options. For the building exterior, of course, you can use waste as a resource. So, and thermally efficient materials such as AAC blocks. You can use you can use fly ash mixed cement, and you can use cement which has a substantial component of GGBS, that is glass, the slag that comes out of the steel factories. So there are so many things that you could think of. You could even create different materials like recycled benches and, interior design or exterior design, which is made out of bottles. Instead of using bricks, you could use old bottles. You could use, so there are so many creative ways in which you could, create building materials, because the thing is that we want to stop the materials going into the dumping grounds. Lastly, I would like to mention that we work and we help facilitate green building design and certification. Our core competency lies in this area. Almost 20 years we have been in this field, and we are committed to making buildings context-specific, sustainable, in the truest sense of the word. We have with us certified energy auditors who conduct energy audits and part of the green audits that we do, as well as we have empaneled ECBC expert professionals, master trainers within our team, green accredited professionals from the various rating systems. We also have affiliated ourselves to NABC accredited agencies, so we conduct green audits as well. And we have a backing of 20 years of experience with various materials, technologies, research, and academic experience in this field. So that's it from me, and I would like to sign off, but there are a few more questions. So let me get back to that. I have received some questions on the group. What's the cost for each certificate? That's one of the questions. Interior, what are the rules of green building? Yeah, so what's the cost? So each green building rating system has its own certification cost. In addition to that, you'll have to pay for the green building consultant as well. But this is very minor as compared to what you will actually achieve. So you will have to go to some of these rating systems, their websites, and look up the, so these are the various rating systems. There is IGBC, there is Griha, there is GEM, there is LEED. You can go to their websites and check what certification fees they charge. It is based on square meter of area. And yeah, so what are the rules of green building? I think I have addressed this already. So also there is some more questions here. I think that's about it. So I think I have addressed the entire set of questions related to green building certification. And I would like to thank all of you for joining in today. And I look forward to receiving your feedback and your comments. And if you need any help from us in doing green building certification, do contact us. Thank you so much, and bye.